Well, now we've discussed like building our technique, holding the bass, basic, being able to put your left hand on the instrument, and basically how to hold the right hand. Back and forth a few notes, and then gradually, after you're able to connect some nice long notes and you start to develop a certain amount of flexibility in the fingers of the right hand, then you're ready to start doing separate notes and gradually shortening the notes that you're doing. And I have a few ways of starting out increasing the speed. In general, going back and forth isn't that hard. If you aren't worried about connecting, it's just a series of notes in different directions that you're starting and stopping the sound. This is important because a lot of people, when I first started playing, I just thought, I wasn't thinking of the bow change. I'd get to one end and I'd go the other direction, and I didn't think about it. In order for two notes next to each other to sound clean and distinct, you actually have to stop the sound and go the other direction. So this is the opposite of a smooth bow change. You want it to be completely stopped, move the other direction. The string actually has some inertia as it rolls in one direction, and you actually have to stop that and move in the other direction. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have a student just cock the string, move a little ways, stop, grab and cock the string again in the opposite direction, and release it. Sometimes it's helpful to have a student, when they get to one end of the bow, completely stop, put the weight on the string, and actually bounce it a couple times side to side like this, so you can actually see their string jiggling, and they're cocking it in the direction they're going to move. Cocked, and then they release, and then stop, and now they're going to cock it in the other direction under their hand. And you can do it with just your arm, which I'm doing right now, but you'll see I can also do it with just my finger, and then release. Now, in general, as you go faster, you're going to get smaller. That's a general principle. I'll probably mention it a couple times. And when I say smaller, I really mean it. In every instance, in the way your muscles are moving, everything just shrinks down and becomes more minute in its dimensions. And the reason for that is very simple. It takes longer to travel a mile than it does to travel a half mile. If you cut the distance in half that you're moving, it'll go twice as quickly at a given speed. And since our speed is based on whatever speed we can get a beautiful sound at, that's our speed. So if I want to go half that or twice that fast, I'm going to only use half the bow. And you can see it very plainly there. Now you can keep cutting it in half until finally I'm doing a whole bunch of down bows, and they're very quick. I've talked about shorter, faster notes just being a little cross-section, a little chunk of a longer, beautiful sounding note. And sometimes in order to reinforce that, I'll have a student play a nice long down bow, and then I'll have them play the same nice long down bow, but I'll have them play it in tiny little chunks, like maybe 8 chunks. And the idea is that they're just going to use the same amount of bow, move the same distance, they're just going to pulse it. And they're making tiny little circles as they go, stopping, grabbing, releasing, stopping, grabbing, releasing, all in the same direction, so they can feel that each one of these is a tiny cross-section of that long note. After we're able to do the down bows, 8 in one direction, then we just do exactly the same thing on an up bow. And the goal should be that all of these little chunks sound identical. They're all pieces of that same beautiful long note, just a tiny little cross-section of it. After we're able to move both in a down bow and then in an up bow smoothly, then gradually what we should do is just start shaving off the number we're moving in each direction. Like let's cut it down to 4. Now there I'm using half the bow, because I'm only using half the number of notes. Instead of 8, I'm using 4. So I'll get about out to the middle of the bow, and then I come right back. And then eventually I go down to 3, 2, and finally 1. And you can hear that they all sound identical. That's the goal. You want to be able to sound the same in any part of the bow, which we just did, and in any direction of the bow.